Hello everyone! Today we're diving into the story of Adidas and its ambitious experiment, the Speedfactory. Imagine designing your perfect sneaker online, made by robots in a local factory, and delivered to your door in days. This wasn't science fiction. Adidas actually built these high-tech, automated factories in Europe and the US. The goal? To revolutionize how shoes are made and sold, slashing production times and responding instantly to trends. For decades, Adidas relied on slow, overseas manufacturing. Speedfactory aimed to bring production home, using robots, 3D printing, and data to make sneakers on demand. It was a bold gamble, an expensive bet on the future of manufacturing. But despite the hype, the project was eventually shut down. Why did such a promising idea fail? That's what we'll uncover today. The Speedfactory story is a powerful lesson in innovation, risk, and the realities of global business. Let's dive in. To truly understand the ambition behind Speedfactory and the challenges it aimed to overcome, let's rewind to 2015. It's a pivotal year in Adidas's history, marking the beginning of a significant strategic shift. Adidas was under immense pressure. Competitors were not only catching up, but also innovating rapidly, and consumer trends were changing at lightning speed, demanding constant adaptation. The market was becoming increasingly competitive. Their answer to this evolving landscape? A bold new strategy internally called Creating the New, a comprehensive plan designed to revitalize the brand and regain its competitive edge. Built on three core pillars, each representing a critical area of focus. First, speed; second, cities; and third, open source. First, speed. Adidas wanted to drastically shrink the time from initial design to product availability in stores, aiming to compress the process from months to mere days. This would allow them to react instantly and effectively to emerging cultural moments and rapidly changing consumer preferences. Second, cities. They strategically focused on trend-setting urban hubs like New York, London, and Tokyo. The goal was to create products that resonated deeply with local consumers, feeling both relevant and authentic to each specific market. Third, open source. Adidas actively invited athletes, cutting-edge artists, and even their own customers to participate in the co-creation process. This collaborative approach demanded a highly flexible, small-batch manufacturing system capable of adapting to diverse and rapidly changing design inputs. Traditional large-scale factories simply couldn't deliver on this vision. Speedfactory, with its promise of automated on-demand production capabilities, was identified as the key to unlocking this ambitious vision and making it a tangible reality. The plan was undeniably daring to build state-of-the-art high-tech factories in close proximity to major consumer markets, and to leverage these facilities to decisively win the increasingly competitive race for both speed and style in the global fashion industry. It represented a radical shift away from traditional manufacturing models, one that held the potential to fundamentally change the entire industry. But the critical question remained: could this innovative approach actually work effectively at scale? That's precisely what Adidas set out to rigorously discover through real-world implementation and testing. The stakes were exceptionally high, with significant investment and brand reputation on the line, and the entire world was watching with keen interest. And so, the experiment officially began. What set Speedfactory apart? Technology. Instead of rows of workers, these factories were filled with robots, lasers, and advanced computer systems. Digital knitting machines wove entire shoe uppers in one piece, while robotic arms bonded components with precision. 3D printing, especially for midsoles, allowed Adidas to create complex, customized structures impossible with traditional methods. Data was the backbone. Athlete movement and sales trends informed design, and sensors optimized every step of production. The result: a factory that was fast, smart, and deeply connected to the customer. Speedfactory wasn't just about automation, it was about reimagining what a factory could be. The promise was huge mass customization, rapid response, and unmatched quality. For a moment, it looked like the future had arrived. But could this digital magic deliver on its promise? The next step was to put it to the test. The Adidas Made for London AM4LDN sneaker was Speedfactory's showcase. Adidas gathered data from London runners, how they moved, where they ran, what they needed. This information shaped the design, which was engineered and produced at the Speedfactory in Germany. Robots and digital knitting turned ideas into finished shoes in record time. Because the factory was nearby, delivery was fast, no more waiting months for overseas shipments. The AM4 LDN was sleek, city-specific, and released as a limited edition, creating buzz and exclusivity. Adidas repeated this for Paris and New York, each with its own local twist. For a brief moment, Speedfactory seemed unstoppable, but cracks soon appeared. Despite the initial buzz and excitement surrounding the Speedfactory project, Speedfactory quickly hit major roadblocks that threatened its very existence. The promise of revolutionizing shoe manufacturing faced harsh realities. The biggest issue that plagued the project? Cost. It all came down to the bottom line. The implementation of high-tech robots, while innovative and cutting-edge 3D printers, proved to be incredibly expensive, not only to build and install, but also to constantly maintain and upgrade. The cost of making shoes in Speedfactory, with all its advanced technology, cost far more than producing them in traditional Asian factories, where labor costs were significantly lower. To even begin to break even and recoup the massive investment, Adidas would have needed to charge a premium price for their Speedfactory-made shoes, something that only a select few customers, those willing to pay a premium for cutting-edge manufacturing, would actually be willing to pay. The factories were also inherently inflexible in their design, primarily optimized for the rapid production of just one specific type of running shoe. Retooling the entire production line to accommodate different styles or designs was a slow and incredibly costly process, a stark contrast to traditional factories where skilled workers could quickly adapt and adjust to new product lines with relative ease. Ultimately, the initial dream of achieving true mass customization at scale never materialized. The process of creating personalized shoes proved to be far too slow and prohibitively expensive to effectively produce them for millions of potential customers. In the end, Speedfactory found itself excelling primarily at producing small batches of high-end limited edition designs, but it simply couldn't deliver the product variety or the level of affordability needed to compete in the broader market. The fundamental economics of the operation just didn't add up, no matter how they crunched the numbers. The initial experiment was undoubtedly brilliant and forward-thinking, but ultimately, it proved to be unsustainable as a long-term business model. Adidas was faced with a tough and critical choice regarding the future of Speedfactory. Continue pouring vast amounts of money into the project, hoping for a breakthrough, or make a strategic pivot and change course. Ultimately, they made the difficult decision to pivot away from the Speedfactory model. The initial dream of a fully automated localized shoe manufacturing revolution was over, at least for now. But the valuable lessons learned from the Speedfactory experiment were just beginning to be understood and applied. Why did Speedfactory struggle when nearshoring works for companies like Zara? Zara's fast fashion model relies on skilled workers in local factories, quickly switching styles with simple machinery. Clothing is relatively easy to make: cut, sew, ship. In contrast, performance sneakers are complex, requiring advanced materials and specialized machines. Speedfactory's robots were great for one shoe but couldn't adapt to new designs without costly reprogramming. Zara's flexibility comes from people. Speedfactory's rigidity came from machines. The lesson: nearshoring works best when products are simple and processes are flexible. For Adidas, the complexity of sneakers made automation too costly and inflexible. The right supply chain depends on the product. What works for shirts doesn't always work for shoes. In 2019, Adidas closed its Speedfactories. Headlines called it a failure, but the real story is more nuanced. Instead of scrapping the technology, Adidas integrated Speedfactory innovations, digital knitting, robotic bonding, 3D printing, into its large Asian factories. This move combined cutting-edge tech with the efficiency of traditional supply chains. Speedfactory became a real-world R&D lab, teaching Adidas what worked and what didn't. The 3D printed 4D midsole, for example, now powers high-end models made at scale. The experiment upskilled suppliers and made Adidas's global operations smarter and faster. The dream of speed lives on, just in a more practical form. Speedfactory wasn't a failure. It was a costly but invaluable education. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from bold experiments that don't go as planned. The legacy endures. What can future business leaders learn from the story of the Speedfactory? What key takeaways can we glean from its journey, both its successes and its setbacks? First, and perhaps most importantly, innovation must always be balanced with the realities of cost and scalability. It's a crucial equation to solve. Brilliant tech, groundbreaking ideas, and cutting-edge processes aren't enough if they can't be delivered affordably and at scale to meet market demands. The economics have to work. Second, pilot projects are absolutely invaluable in validating assumptions and de-risking larger investments. Start small, test rigorously, and be ready to pivot quickly based on the data, or, if necessary, fail fast and learn from the experience. Don't be afraid to cut your losses. Third, remember that even with today's advancements, automation still has its limits. Robots are incredibly precise and efficient at repetitive tasks, but humans are flexible, adaptable, and possess critical thinking skills. True progress and optimal performance often comes from strategically blending both human capabilities and robotic automation. The Speedfactory experience clearly showed that not every bold idea, no matter how innovative, will ultimately succeed in the marketplace. But every experiment, even those that don't achieve their initial goals, teaches something vital and provides invaluable insights for future endeavors. Adidas may not have achieved its original vision of a widespread network of local, highly automated factories, but the journey made the entire organization smarter, faster in its decision-making, and significantly more innovative in its approach to manufacturing. The real win, in the end, was the wealth of knowledge gained through the process, and perhaps even more importantly, the creation of a strong culture of learning and continuous improvement that it fostered within the company. As you move forward in your own business ventures, always remember this: not every project will be a resounding hit, generating massive profits, but every lesson learned along the way counts towards long-term success. Therefore, actively build and nurture a culture within your organization that truly values experimentation, embraces calculated risk-taking, and prioritizes continuous learning. The Adidas Speedfactory itself may be gone, its physical presence a memory, but its valuable lessons and the knowledge it generated will undoubtedly continue to shape the future of business and manufacturing for years to come. Sometimes the very best investments you can make are the ones that ultimately teach you what to do, preventing even more costly mistakes down the road. And that enduring impact, that continuous cycle of learning and improvement, is the real and lasting legacy of innovation. Thanks for watching.